This is episode 59 of The Way of Jesus and is being recorded for the November 2025 broadcast. It interprets Daniel's prophecy of the great image and reveals the specific event that will be the precursor to the coming of the Antichrist and the time of the end. Daniel chapter 2 contains perhaps the most wide-ranging prophecy in the Bible. In one short chapter, this prophecy outlines the political history of the Western world, stretching from the time of Daniel in the 6th century BC through to modern times and forever after. The prophecy originates in a dream of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, which Daniel interprets. This prophecy of the great image presents a timeline of the history of the Western world in the form of a frightening image of a mighty man. This human image is composed of various elements, which represent an unbroken succession of world empires. The head of gold represents Nebuchadnezzar's Babylonian Empire. The breast and arms of silver stand for the Persian Empire. The belly and thighs of bronze symbolize the Greek Empire, and the legs of iron represent the Roman Empire. The feet of iron and clay picture the Roman Empire becoming fragmented and divided into various Germanic kingdoms. And the toes of the feet stand for the modern nations that evolved out of this divided Roman Empire. The end of the failed kingdoms of men is symbolized by a stone striking the image and destroying it. The prophecy states that a stone was cut out by no human hand, and it smote the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. The stone's actions not only depict the destruction of the secular kingdoms of men, but also their replacement by the kingdom of God. Here's how the prophecy pictures this momentous event. But the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Daniel interprets the conclusion of the prophetic dream as follows. And as the toes of the feet were partially iron and partially clay, so the kingdom shall be partially strong and partially brittle. As you saw the iron mix with miry clay, so they will mix with one another in marriage, but they will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, nor shall its sovereignty be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever. The phrase, "in the days of those kings," conveys important information. It tells us the time when the supernatural forces of God will destroy the evil and corrupt kingdoms of men and pave the way for the coming of the kingdom of God to rule over the nations. It is significant that the stone does not strike the image on its head, breast, belly, or legs. It strikes the image on its feet of iron and clay. And since the toes of the feet represent Rome's final evolution into the individual nations of Europe, this prophecy is telling us that God's kingdom will appear at the time of these modern nation-states. Today, these modern nations of Europe are bound together in the European Union, a political and economic union with centralized authority over 27 member states. This supranational entity has its own parliament, central bank, and laws affecting over 400 million people. The prophecy states they will mix with one another in marriage. This prophecy refers to various historical attempts to reunify Europe. It began in 800 AD with Charlemagne's creation of the Holy Roman Empire, and continued through to modern times with the formation of the European Union. The prophecy also predicts they will not hold together. This has been true of past attempts to revive the Roman Empire through imperial expansion, such as Charlemagne, Napoleon, and Hitler, and it will also prove true of the modern European Union. Today's EU is wrestling with numerous divisive issues, including immigration, war with Russia, growing totalitarian control, loss of national sovereignty, climate change, populist pushback, and the rule of law. These internal conflicts are an ever-increasing problem, and we are now witnessing the growing division and dissolution of the European Union. The coming breakup of the European Union will bring disunity, confusion, unsettledness, weakness, depression, and widespread discontent. Issues of national sovereignty will spark animosities and conflicts. History demonstrates that such conditions are fertile soil for the rise of demagogues and tyrants. These very uncertain and unsettled times will provide an ideal environment for the rise of the Antichrist. In the prophecy of the great image, the stone that strikes the image brings about the time of the end of the secular and corrupt kingdoms of men. It is also important to realize that this time of the end of our present world order will also be the time when the Antichrist will rise, gain great power, and ultimately be defeated by the coming of God's kingdom. These two events, the time of the Antichrist and the end of the age, are linked together. Thus, we who look for signs of the end times and its Antichrist ruler should watch for the coming dissolution of the European Union. The breakup of the EU, the fulfillment of the prophecy, they will not hold together, is our signal that the appearance of the Antichrist is on the horizon. Thus, we may recognize that the breakup of the EU is the precursor to the rise of the Antichrist and the time of the end. Why is this knowledge important to us? With this foreknowledge of the event that will be the precursor to the time of the Antichrist, we can better prepare ourselves for this time of testing. We will find it easier to manifest the courage, self-control, faith, hope, and increased communion with God that will enable us to patiently endure this dark time and confidently await the promised coming of a glorious new spiritual age, the kingdom of God. This concludes episode 59. If you found this podcast helpful and informative, please like, subscribe to ensure you get future broadcasts, and share it with your friends. I have recently published a new book entitled, I Am a Son of God. Here's what one reviewer had to say. This book is about growing your faith and spirituality. It is an easy read and is uplifting. It offers lessons on spiritual growth for both the individual and for everyday family life. The book does not have overly complicated theological tones. The author's language is easy to understand, and he does a good job offering ways to overcome spiritual challenges in our very secular society. This book is available from Amazon.com. Thank you for watching and listening. Until next time, may God guide you and comfort you and bring you peace.